So I'm going to take moderator's privilege for the first question and try to tease out a little more of what you were saying there about the conflicts of interest. Because you've gone and spoken now to quite a lot of companies and a lot of designers about these ideas. And to tie this in a little bit to what we talk about here at Data and Society, obviously one of the reasons that the attention economy works the way it does is that a lot of these companies offer services which are, in quotes, free, which means that they're offering them to you in return for your data.
Yep.
They need as much of your data as possible. In order to get as much of your data as possible, they need as much of your attention as possible.
Yes.
And that's where one of the fundamental conflicts of interest seems to be. So how does that come up when you go and talk to these companies, and how do you answer that problem of essentially their existential crisis around this?
Yep. So for businesses whose business model is engagement based, so it's not just data, right? I mean, if I have no data from you and I can just put an ad in front of you, I can make money from that. Data is just the optimization on top of that to make that ad worth a lot more than what it would be if I didn't know anything about you. So there's sort of different tiers. There's an attention economy that's sort of like the 1995 attention economy, where ads just show up and the goal is to get you to spend as much time as possible. But in that world, we weren't very persuasive yet at getting people to spend lots of time. So for any business model, for any business, website, app that is that has the business model of time spent being the proxy, this does conflict with what they can do. So if I walked into YouTube or to Twitter or to Facebook, and I was actually speaking to Facebook's whole product design team 2 weeks ago, they can't do a lot of these changes because it would conflict with their business model. But I think the thing that I'm concerned about is whether or not that distinction ever gets made, versus there's sort of a self-deception that getting people to spend more time is improving their life, as opposed to we're just trying to get people to spend more time. And it correlates with life benefit, but it's not on my team. So you can't do it until there is some mark that basically, well, I mean, so you don't have to have the mark, but people do have to pay for, so there has to be an alternative business model or an augmentation of money coming in, which can be subscription, can be freemium type models and things like that. But it's the unbounded desire to take your time. That's the fundamental issue. It's not advertising at large. It's the specific form in which people have an incentive to get eyeballs glued on screens for minutes.
Right, and as you say, one of the driving forces could be that there's an alternative. So as with organic food, once there is an alternative organic food industry, that in itself maybe creates a certain incentive for the other producers to shift.
That's right.
At the very least, the way they market their products, if not actually the content. So
exactly.
You've talked, I think, about the idea of a B Corp or something like that.
That's kind of like what this is, yeah. So it's interesting because normally B Corps and CSR programs are about managing the externalities that your business produces, or like the manufacturing practices, or how the company operates itself. But there's not been a category for, does the core thing that your product does actually result in net positive improvements to people's lives? So it's sort of a new piece of corporate social responsibility or B Corp style work.